My fellow Necron fans and aficionados, I am sad to say that this Necron review block is almost over. We have two more things to do. The first thing is obviously we are going to have to review this lovely McFarlane Necron Warrior first and foremost. And the second thing that we're going to need to do is going to pit this Necron Warrior against the Joy Toy Immortal in another video, but I digress. I know I'm a little bit late to this train because I think this Necron figure was probably released 1 or 2 years ago, but you know that saying, it's better late than never. So let's jump right into this review.
Another day, another sarcophagus opening. Bring open all the locks. Ta-da! And the unveiling. The Necron Warrior, the literal backbone of the Necron army. And we shall see what this McFarlane figure has to offer us with all these little Necron-y goodies. So, as usual, we will take a look at the head area first and inspect it very closely. With the head region, there seems to be a little bit more depth than I was actually expecting initially. As you can see here, there is some dry brushing that is going on up here with this silverish kind of tone to it. Usually McFarlane figures are just a monochrome color, so there is a little bit more detail put into this thing. As you can see very closely, there is a ton of battle damage going on with this guy's cranium. So you've got some dents, scrapes, just wear and tear over a millennia of undead living. So it's really nice that McFarlane has put that kind of detail into their figures. The eyes are screened very nicely. They are glowing green and beadly. So then let's take a look at the Carapace itself, and there is a lot of detail in this Carapace that I like. Look at this shoulder blade over here. There is so much pitting here, and then within these pits you can see definite shading put in, which is really nice to see. Same thing with this other side. Let's take a look at the chest region of this action figure. And what do we find? Well, we find skeletal rib cages here that has been shaded in the recesses, a prominent Necron symbol in the middle, and then a bunch of hoses and wires and stuff that are sticking out, which is actually really cool to see. I love how some of these wires don't even have an end. This one is broken. And then as we look at the arm area, we get to see this dull bronze type of color all throughout. And it actually lightens up to this very dull kind of silver color too. More battle damage and pitting. And then if you flip around to the other side, you get to see more pitting and battle damage. And also an added little effect is that this arm has the same effect as the head that has a silverish look to it. So it brings this Necron to life just a little bit more. And then progressing on, obviously we have the skeletal spine over here. And then this pelvic region. One thing that I forgot to point out is that I like how this Necron looks. Most things that are humanoid or bipedal have the symmetry to them, and this Necron clearly does not. And then looking at the lower half of this Necron, you get to see a ton of detail right here, especially with this thigh area. The amount of battle damage and the amount of care that McFarlane puts into their action figures, especially this guy, I think it's fantastic. Right knee is different from the left knee. The right knee has a bunch of wires sticking out of it, while the left knee is a lot cleaner than the other one. And then we're going to progress down to the lower regions of this Necron, and once again, you see the asymmetry and the dry brushing to give this a silverish worn appearance. Okay, let's pick up this gigantic Gauss flare here. And the Gauss flare, I'll have to say straight off the bat, looks, to be honest, exactly like a McFarlane weapon. It looks kind of flat, unfortunately, but that's just how they roll, so that's how we're going to roll then. So taking a look at the main body of this Gauss flare, you got the handle over here, and everything is painted a monochrome black all throughout. Actually, there is a good amount of differentiation here. You get to see this green glowing hose over here, as well as a silver hose in the middle of this Gauss flare. And then the whole barrel of it is obviously black, and you do get to see these green glowing nodes. And I really like these green glowing nodes because they stand out in very large contrast to the rest of the rifle. And finally, we have like this bayonet thing that you can see has been very well used because it has a lot of dings and scrapes, just like with the Necron's body. Same thing with this wicked looking muzzle right here. You can see more dings and dents and scrapes and stuff. So that is the Gauss flare. And look, we have a bonus Scarab over here. And I didn't really expect McFarlane to actually put this in, but this thing is a very welcomed addition. So you get to see the Scarab's single eye, and then in the middle of it, you see a green glowing orb, which is actually cool. I'll have to say, I don't know if this is actually intentionally done, but you get to see this like lighter white edge glow, and then it kind of gets stronger in the middle. You can see that the legs are completely back. The underside of this is also black. The carapace is that of a very dark gold color that completely matches the Necron, as you can see over here. So we're going to put this guy down and take a look at the articulation of this Necron. The first thing I'm going to do is to rotate the head like I normally do, and looks like you can rotate this around 360 degrees, although it is fairly unnatural to do. There is also up and down tilting motion that you can get, and obviously you can get a left to right motion. So that's a nice thing to see. With regards to the arm, it is very, very clearly ball and socketed, so you should be able to do 360 degree motion. And there is motion laterally side to side. You can do this up and down motion as well. It's very well articulated in my opinion. And then there is a shoulder joint that you can pivot pretty much 90 degrees out, like so. The elbow joint, this is the maximum you can bend it, but you can push this thing up 90 degrees and you can hear that ratcheting as well. This arm, you can also pivot around 360 degrees like you're seeing me do right now. And then the wrist wise, it goes up and down like that. And then if you really want, it can do it side to side with the same motion. And the wrist also goes 360 degrees like that. And that's the same thing on this side. There are two separate joints here, a gigantic ball and socket joint between this vertebra and the torso region. And this will allow you to do 360 degrees of motion. And then there is a separate ball joint right here that also allows you to do 360 degree motion. This one's a little bit tougher, but here we go, 360 degrees of motion. You can pivot this side to side, so there's lateral movement. There's also 360 degrees of movement here. The knee area, this is the maximum. You can bend it this way, but you can bend this back 90 degrees. There is a nice ratcheting mechanism as well. About the ankle area, you can pivot this 360, and this goes up and down like you see here. And then what's cool about this one is that it has flappy toes. So you can actually move this up and down like so. Okay, we have the Necron Warrior fully reviewed. However, I'm going to add one more quick thing. Some of you may be asking, well, how tall is this guy compared to the Joy Toy one? I'll have to say that this one is absolutely gigantic next to the Joy Toy one. So I have the Immortal right here, and this looks absolutely comical because guess what? The Immortal of the Joy Toy figure basically only goes up to the Necron Warrior's pelvic region. I hope this answers the question of how short exactly is the Immortal next to the Necron Warrior.
Obviously, ahead of us, we have the fearsome Necron Warrior. So what do I think of McFarlane's rendition of it? Well, I think that he always does a fantastic job of translating the miniature form into this very large format. So what do I really like about this action figure himself? Well, the battle damage. The battle damage is completely phenomenal to me. You get to see, again, all those dings, scrapes, pockmarks, whatever you want to call them, that are very prominent all throughout this action figure. And you really can tell that this thing has been alive for a millennia. Do I think that you should get this thing if you have the chance? I know this is an older type of action figure, so you may be needing to pay a premium above the original price of, I believe it was $20 USD. Do I recommend getting this? Absolutely. There is no reason why you wouldn't want to get this action figure. Again, there's so much detail that's involved with it. I do actually like the Gauss flare a lot, although it does need a little bit of work when it comes to the painting. So this is Sprues and Studs, and I hope you enjoyed this video. And if in-depth look at action figures of the Warhammer 40K variety is what you want, then please consider subscribing to the channel. So brothers and sisters of the chapter, thank you so much for watching this video and supporting me all throughout the years. I appreciate your help, and I would not be here if it wasn't all for your support. And as usual, I will see you all in the next one.